Hi everyone, my name is Jonathan, and in this 10 minutes video we'll be running through the basics of Flutter UI layouts. We'll be using this sample project, right, as a reference, and we'll be building this small part of it, right, displaying the bus number and the arrival timings. So we will utilize this very commonly used widgets called rows and columns. So we will try to understand the differences of it, right? And we'll build it later. So all of your Flutter apps are actually built on this common concept called Widget Tree, right? So later we'll be visualizing them, and we will understand how the widgets are being structured in Flutter. So this might be something familiar for you guys, right? Where you have your UI layer, logic layer, and data layer. So you might have seen this in your other programming modules. But today we'll be focusing on this UI layer, right? This is where Flutter does its best at. Okay, so let's try to understand the differences between a row and column, right? So a row in Flutter uh, and how the widgets are being arranged is basically arranged from left to right, right? And a column, the widgets are arranged from top to bottom. So this is the key difference between the row and column widget in Flutter. So with that basic understanding, we can actually jump straight into coding, right? And I've already created a demo project, right? So you have all your default files here. You can jump straight into the main.dat file, and we will code from scratch. We'll just delete this whole portion of my app, and we'll create our own stateless widget. We can name it my app as well. Right, so we will create this using a material app, right? And we'll name the app title demo. Oops. Sorry, bus demo app. And we will have the default theme. Right, we can just create this with the primary color. Can use we can use black, right, as our color. And we will declare the property of home with scaffold, right? And the property body, we can have our row being declared now, right? So it's for rows and columns, they use this property called children, right, where you will place your widgets inside. Okay, so in this case, let's explore using our containers, right? And we will have the container and the container's width and height, right, as 100, right? And then to display them out, let's have it with a color, right? Okay, and let's duplicate this. Sorry. And change the color so we can visualize them better, right? So this is how a row will look like, right? And let's explore the other common properties of row, right? So the common property of row is main axis alignment. And okay, let's look at main axis alignment first. Alignment, right? You can see our different options here. By default, it will be start, right? So there are center, right, where you align it to the center, and then you have space between, so it will look something like this, and then you have space evenly also. So you have different different types of alignment that you can actually play around with, right? So let's do it center. Right, so the next thing we'll be looking at is the cross-axis alignment, right? Where your cross-axis alignment basically is referring to the y-axis, right? Because the main axis alignment for a row is the x. So the cross-axis alignment is the opposite, right? So it will be y. So we can also play around with the different properties here, right? So you have different options, but you will start to see, hey, how come I cannot see the difference when I change, right? It's because our containers are with a specific height and width, right? Which don't have which is not being stretched, right? So we cannot see that difference. So what we can do is we can remove the height, right? So now the first container will be taking up the full length of the screen, and now you can see the cross-axis alignment is being reflected in the screen, right? So you can actually also put it in the center, right? And there you will see it putting it right in the center. Alright, so this is exceptionally, I think this will be very helpful when you are designing your different components, right? And later on we'll be looking at the bus cut, so that will come in very handy as well. So now we can look at columns, right? So column is the same thing as well. What's the difference? Difference is it's being placed on the y-axis, right? So just now was the row was on the x-axis, so now it's on the y-axis, and it's being arranged from top to bottom, right? That's what we learned just now. So it's the same exact thing, right? So we can play around with it as well. We can see how this works when it's being stretched, the container is being stretched, right? And how and how the other widgets will reflect changes according to the alignment settings that we have created, right? Okay, so we have already understood the concept of rows and columns widgets, so we can already start building our bus arrival timing card, where we display the bus number and the arrival timings. So over here, what we have learned about columns is the widgets placed inside are arranged from top to bottom. So we can already plan to create a column here. And then we can also plan to create a row, right? Because we know that our widgets for rows can be arranged from left to right. So from left to right. So first we will have the bus number, and then we can have the arrival timing, first arrival timing, second arrival timing, and third arrival timing. So in total you have 4 widgets here in one row, arranged from left to right. However, you can also look at it at a different angle, where it is a nested row, right? So this is a new concept, a nested row, where you have a row within a row. So the first row, I mean, let's say so the inner row in this case will consist of 3 children, right? Which is your first and second and third arrival timing. And then on the outside you have 2 children, which is your bus number, and then followed by that one row that you have created, which is your inner row. So today we'll be building it in such, right? We'll be building it in a nested row format. Okay, so some of us might be familiar with this diagram, where you see it maybe in your data structures and algorithms modules. So Flutter is actually following same concept, right, where you have your root node all the way till your leaf nodes. So when we build a widget tree in Flutter, okay, so let's focus on this, right, where we want to build this this part of the UI, where we want to display 33 and minutes. So in our widget tree, how we will visualize it is we will have our text, right, which is being displayed 33 and minutes, being nested in the column, right, and in this column it's being wrapped with wrapped by the container. So why a container? It's because the container will help us to do some styling, which provides this rounded corners and green background, right? Green color, right? And so on. So we can do a lot of styling with containers actually. And as we look at it as a whole, right, this is how we plan it. Just now we are looking at this as one, correct? So we will have 3 different timings over here, where it's being nested into this row. And for the bus number, right, we have a container that's wrapped around this text widget, and then you have your row, your outer row, correct? So outer row, inner row, and with that we'll have the main row, the outer row, wrapped with the container, which helps. Why do we need a container? Because we will have rounded corners and of course this white background that we declare. And what we notice here is that Flutter have all their UI components as widgets. Alright, so you have your text widgets, you have your column widgets, your container, row widgets. So even padding is also a widget. So what you realize is that the widgets are nested within one another. So that is a common concept that we all have to understand when building Flutter apps. So now we can jump straight into our bus timing project. Okay, now we are back at our Visual Studio Code, and let's first replace this placeholder. Right. Replace it with a container, right, which is that first widget that we need. Okay, so let's build the row with the bus number and the nested row. Okay, so we have our row, so child property in the container, for row children, and then the bus number, and then you have your nested row. Okay. So in our nested row we have the timing badges. So in this case we have 3 timing badges, and so before we build our timing badges, I want to first introduce the container. So container, we have properties where we can declare padding. So in this case we'll declare a padding of 16. Then we can also provide decoration, box decoration. We want the box to be colored white with a border radius of 16. Okay, so that's how we get that rounded border. We use the decoration property here. Okay, so let's scroll down, and then we also want to style the service number, right? We want to change the font size and the font weight. Okay, so we can also do that here. Alright, with the style property, text style. background black, font size, let's make it 40, and then font weight declare as bold. Okay. So we got half of it already, right? The bus number. Now let's build the timing badges. So the timing badges, we will need a container with the column and its text. Okay. Container, a column. Sorry, we need the child first. Child property column with its children inside, which is your text. In this case, we have so now it's pretty bare bones also. So let's style the container. And then what we notice here is that the text inside is not aligned well. So let's align it with what we know, right? We have the main axis alignment, and then we center it. Yes. So same thing, let's style the text. Okay, let's copy this, and then we change the font size on. Okay, so there we go. We have the timing badge. Okay, but okay, so let me speed run this and change to the values that we want. Okay, so now I think something's still missing. Okay, so now we are done with our timing badges, but something's missing because we want to create some space, right, between the timing badges and as well as the service number with the timing badges. So let's go to our the second timing badge. We can click on that light bulb icon and we will wrap with padding. Now it creates some space, and for the bus number with the nested row, we can use the main axis alignment and create space between. Right. So this helps us to create that space exactly what we wanted. Okay, so yes, so that's the end of this bus cut demo. Let's go back to our slides. So to wrap up, we have covered the widget tree, right? We have visualized how the widgets are being structured, right, in a nested format, right? So we have this, right, where we understand that everything is basically widgets. You have your text as a widget, a padding is also a widget, column is also a widget, a row is a widget, right? So we also have learned how to use rows and columns to arrange the widgets horizontally and vertically, right, with along with the different alignments properties. And we have built a bus cut, right, by exploring the different styling options using containers, tags, and box decoration.